Let me ask a question that combines both housing and criminal justice, or criminal law, if you don't believe it's much about criminal justice itself. Cracking down on the down and out. We tried it in LA in 2006 with the Safer Cities Initiative. We made Skid Row the most heavily policed area in the nation, urban, any other, in the nation. And we decided we were going to practice therapeutic policing by going down, arresting, citing, and saying the way you can address this arrest, these cuffs, this cage, is by going to one of these to one of these mega shelters and getting on essentially a 12-step program. Because the problem of homelessness, of course, is your inner irresponsibility, your inner deficiencies, your inner brokenness. It's not a problem of inadequate housing, inadequate jobs, inadequate health care, mental health care. No, it is really about your inner personal irresponsibility. And so what we have to do is get you in one of these 12-step programs that these mega shelters are pushing. And if you don't show up on the scheduled and appointed times, then you're in trouble. You know, you get into a loop, and now it's kind of endless. And we squandered, and I'll have to defer to the folks who know the numbers. We squandered, I suspect, hundreds of millions of dollars, because we're not just talking 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10. Was the homelessness problem improved? Was the houselessness problem that did improve since 2006? While we were spending all that money. So I'm having a hard time understanding how, in the name of therapeutic policing, the velvet fist and the iron glove, why we are now going back to that way of approaching the problem, and what can keep us from going back to that failed approach that you've been thinking about, because that does seem to be what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that. I'm even hearing people say things like, houseless people want to do it. Some do. It's a lifestyle choice. You hear bizarre things, kind of coming out of the mouths of politicians who know better, right? But what would be your response to addressing the houseless issue without the intervention of punitive, state actors like police?
Well, the first thing we need to do is create a paid advisory council of unhoused people to talk about what we need to do. That's the very first thing we need to do. Criminalizing poverty is done. It's over. We've been doing it for 100 years. Kelly Lytle Hernandez's book, City of Inmates, should be required reading for anybody running to govern this city, because that is what we've been doing for 100 plus years now, is using these penal approaches to try and deal with poverty. We're not dealing with poverty at all. In fact, what we're doing is we're feeding an overbloated prison industrial complex is what we're doing. And what I've seen of late, since the uprising, the People's Uprising after George Floyd, we've seen decriminalization of things with George Gascon, with organizations like Justice LA, decarcerating things. The jails are starting to get emptied. The prisons are starting to get emptied. That system knows it, and it needs new bodies, and they've turned their focus to the houseless to fill this prison industrial complex beast. We cannot let this happen. We cannot let this happen on our watch, regardless of who gets elected. Even if I don't win, even though I will, even if I don't win, we need to make sure that does not happen, because make no mistake about it, that is their plan. 4118 is to send folks on our streets to jail, to fill the jails, so that they then will go to prison to keep that prison industrial complex going. It's time to finish that once and for all.
How to solve homelessness, because what you're seeing is people who haven't experienced it, or who don't even live near where unhoused people live, and they're the ones making these decisions and basically just putting police everywhere as if they're the ones who can solve these issues. with people who are having mental health issues or people who are homeless and struggling. And I think, that's what's really important to have and what we need in the city of LA. And, I feel like our city council members and our mayor, because they're the ones who are going to be pushing this, we need progressives in there.
4118 is just so emblematic of the city's consistent failed approach. It cannot work. It has not worked. It will never work. And what was it you said, Gina, that you like your campaign to be an affirmative one rather than a negative one? I love that language because I think it behooves progressives to be on offense about safety and security. And I think so often we're on defense or diverting the question, right? Because we don't want questions of safety to crowd out discussions about police violence or police brutality for good reason. But it is important that people feel safe. We all deserve to feel safe. And we know that the policies that we're talking about are actually better at keeping people safe. And that's the message to communicate. Not that homicides aren't a serious social problem, but that they stem from a variety of social forces and that we need to be broad in our thinking about the true health and educational resources that form the core of true public safety.
We just see that what the city of LA has been doing is not working. When Mayor Garcetti took office in 2013, homelessness has increased 80%. Is that a good job? No. The rent's gone up. The police budget has increased close to $1 billion. And what do we have to show for it? Nothing. Poverty is increasing, crime. And then they say like the police budget, right? And they always try to point that, well, if you increase the police budget, crime is going to decrease, and that's not true. And I think that's really what our campaign is all about. And so